Hello everyone. Today, I welcome an author who wrote her first novel, which was released in March 2020 and didn't go unnoticed on social media. It's the book Remember, Sydney. This interview was originally scheduled to air on a Swiss radio station in 2020. For various reasons, it couldn't be broadcast at the time, so I've reconstructed it with the help of artificial intelligence. The content is authentic. The author has distanced herself from everything connected to her former life, particularly spiritual aspects, so you'll see and hear her avatar. Eneeh Quarter, hello. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing well, thank you, and thank you for having me.
That's perfectly natural. So, Eneeh, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself and especially about your book, which, as I mentioned in the introduction, is your first one?
My first one indeed. But I've always loved writing. Since I was a little girl, I've been writing short stories and poems too. I love playing with words.
So tell me about your journey. How did you come to write this story? Because to clarify, it's a fictionalized narrative, a tragic story all the same.
Yes, tragic, yes, but also full of hope. I drew a lot of inspiration from the environment in which I grew up and spent most of my life.
Are you talking about the religious organization of Jehovah's Witnesses, right?
Yes, exactly.
So tell me more about the subject of this novel.
It's the story of a young girl.
Can we say that this young girl is you?
No, not particularly. Fortunately for me, I didn't experience all the hardships that marked Claire's life, the heroine, throughout her journey. I had other experiences, but not as dire as these.
So, we have here the story of a young girl, I'll give a brief summary, who gets married, but can't abandon herself to him, can't let go, and on top of that, has visions.
Well, yes, from her wedding night, she hears a voice telling her to be a good little girl, and she also sees two eyes staring at her. This prevents her from letting go, and she pushes her husband away.
Then we follow Claire in her life as a young wife, but the story starts a bit earlier. The first chapters recount her early childhood in Lausanne.
That's right. From a very young age, she attends the Jehovah's Witnesses religion with her mother. It was a perfect opportunity to give a quick overview of how the witnesses are organized, their way of life, the control by the leaders, and so on.
The elders, right?
Yes, the elders, but also the governing body, which is the organization that manages every witness's life from its headquarters in the United States. I tried to portray this through the eyes of a little girl who doesn't always understand the prohibitions imposed on her, but who willingly complies because she doesn't want to displease God.
An attitude that remains with her as she enters adulthood and marries Jeremy, who also comes from a Jehovah's Witness family.
Yes, you have to understand that when you've been taught throughout your childhood that you have the privilege of belonging to the organization, the only one approved by God, it's hard to develop a critical mind toward it.
So, we won't spoil the whole story, but there are several secondary characters who play a very important role in Claire's life. And some even meet a tragic fate.
Yes, first of all, there's her mother. Claire's father left when she was 7, and she remarried Raymond, also a Jehovah's Witness. She's a very devout woman. You could even say bigoted, and she puts religion above everything else.
Even above her daughter's well-being?
That I'll leave for the readers to discover.
And especially, this mother has an excessive fear of the elders?
Yes, they represent God's organization, and you have to obey them to the letter.
Did you experience that when you were a witness? Tell me a bit about it if you'd like.
Yes, of course. I knew very good people, obviously, even among the elders, but some clearly had an oversized ego, a kind of desire for control over others. It was impossible to question their authority or the decisions they made. And many interfered in the private lives of the witnesses, in couples' lives too. In fact, you always have to account for your every action and gesture under penalty of being marked. That's the term used when the announcement is made to the entire congregation after you've committed a reprehensible but minor action. And in that case, interactions with other members are limited. In extreme cases, you're disfellowshipped. Now it's changed to removed since 2024. In that case, you're treated like a pariah. No one can talk to you, not even a nod if you cross paths on the street. Even family members limit relations to the strict minimum. It's hell, really, for many who have only known life within the movement and couldn't have any friendships with outsiders.
Then there's Claire's friend?
Isabel. They're the same age and have known each other since childhood. Claire's father, who is a traveling sales technician going all over the world, once brought back a large seashell from Australia and gave it to Claire. With Isabel, she plans to return it to its beach, which is an excuse to plan a trip they promised to take the day after their 18th birthdays.
And there's also Eloise, Claire's co-worker, a very kind and gentle woman.
Eloise is a mature woman in her 50s who works in the same shop as Claire. She's the one who helps Claire find some stability in her life, who advises her and guides her on her spiritual path. Above all, she opens Claire's eyes to her surroundings.
Not always very reassuring.
That's putting it mildly.
But it's not just Eloise who helps Claire get through it, to free herself from those faceless eyes watching her in the night and that voice whispering in her ear.
She benefits from the help of a therapist, Eleanor, who frees her from her inner demons. She follows her until her healing.
Yes, because in the end she makes it through, but after going through some truly terrible moments, experiences we wouldn't wish on anyone. Don't you think you've gone too far in the fiction?
Sometimes they say reality surpasses fiction, but in this story there are some extreme moments. It might seem exaggerated.
Moreover, the book's introduction describes a murder, a horrible murder even, that I won't spoil, but it sends chills down the spine.
2 years writing this book. I did tons of research. Even today, I realize I fell short of the reality faced by many women, men, and especially children who fall prey to malicious individuals. Not just among Jehovah's Witnesses, but across all strata of society, unfortunately. But because of the structure of this movement, the code of silence, to avoid bringing shame on God's name.
By that you mean shame on the Watchtower, of course, more than on God. You mention it in the book.
Yes, the Watchtower, which is the legal entity that manages every action and gesture of the movement's adherents. As a result, out of fear of reprisals, people prefer to say nothing, not file complaints, especially in cases of child sexual abuse, where victims end up being treated as guilty and sometimes expelled from the movement. This became evident after an investigation that made waves, less so in our countries, an inquiry commissioned by the Australian government, which established that over 1,000 cases of child assaults had been concealed from authorities over about 6 decades.
It's hard to imagine.
And yet it's the case.
So through this book, do you want to settle scores with this high control religion?
Not at all, no. Personally, I didn't experience any particular traumas, no assaults. I grew up in a normal family with prohibitions, of course, like celebrating birthdays or holidays like Christmas, but I didn't have that sense of being cut off from the world, like so many other witness children, unfortunately. No, what I wanted was to denounce what needed to be denounced. The handling of child sexual abuse cases, the control over members, abuses of power, but also, as you mentioned, to show that there's hope. You can remain a believer. The book's goal isn't to discourage those who are, but without putting your life in the hands of other men who will have the power to do whatever they want with you. But there's no hatred in this book. In fact, a Jehovah's Witness can read it with a clear conscience and continue his life as a witness without any problem. I'm for freedom of belief, but against anything that harms people's physical or mental integrity.
Eneeh, we're coming to the end of our interview. Thank you for being with us. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you for the invitation. It was a pleasure for me too.
To get this book full of raw truth and situations every Jehovah's Witness has experienced, head to the website harpetania.eu. The link appears at the bottom of the screen and also in the video description. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us, and best wishes.
Wreszcie wolni wyszliśmy z jaskini.